Atlantic Ocean, May 24, 1943. Dawn breaks over convoy ONS-5, its merchant ships cutting through gray swells under heavy cloud cover. In the distance, the drone of engines announces the arrival of an RAF Coastal Command Liberator, its crew scanning the horizon through perspex windows. Below the surface, U-381 prepares for what its commander believes will be another successful attack. The submarine's periscope breaks the surface for a routine sweep of the convoy's flanks. What happens next takes 43 seconds. The Liberator's ASV-Mk3 radar locks onto the submarine at 8 miles. The aircraft banks sharply toward the contact. U-381's lookouts spot the approaching bomber and sound the alarm. Crewmen scramble through hatches as ballast tanks flood. The submarine begins its emergency dive, a maneuver that had saved countless boats in 1940 and 1941. But this is 1943, and the rules have changed. Depth charges explode around the diving submarine. All 47 crew members perish. The crash dive that once guaranteed survival has become a death sentence measured in seconds. Wilhelmshaven Naval Base. September 3, 1939. Admiral Karl Dönitz stands before a wall map of the Atlantic, red pins marking the positions of Germany's operational U-boat fleet. The count is sobering, 57 submarines total, with only 22 capable of Atlantic operations. The Type Seevita boats, Germany's workhorses, stretch 67 meters from bow to stern and carry 14 torpedoes. Their crews, averaging 24 years of age, have trained for this moment since joining the Kriegsmarine. Dönitz traces shipping lanes with his finger, calculating tonnage and time. His war diary entry for October 1939 reflects supreme confidence. The enemy has no effective counter to night surface attack. British convoys travel without air cover through vast stretches of ocean. RAF Coastal Command operates fewer than 300 aircraft, most lacking radar or sufficient range to patrol convoy routes effectively. The first kills come quickly. U-29 sinks the aircraft carrier HMS Courageous on September 17, 1939, taking 519 lives. U-47 penetrates Scapa Flow itself, sinking HMS Royal Oak at anchor with 833 dead. These early victories establish a pattern. German submarines surface at night, approach convoys at high speed, and disappear before dawn. The British Admiralty estimates acceptable losses at 300,000 tons annually, a figure that proves tragically optimistic. By December 1940, U-boats have destroyed 2.2 million tons of Allied shipping. Dönitz's Wolfpack tactics coordinate multiple submarines against single convoys, overwhelming escorts through numerical superiority. The submarines hunt in groups of 6 to 12 boats, guided by radio intelligence and reconnaissance aircraft. When a convoy is located, the submarines converge like wolves pursuing prey. Individual boats achieve remarkable success rates. U-99 under Otto Kretschmer sinks 44 ships totaling 200 Sack and 629 tons. U-100 destroys 42 vessels. These aces become legends within the Kriegsmarine, their exploits celebrated in German newspapers and propaganda films. The submarine service represents Germany's most elite branch, attracting the nation's brightest technical minds and most adventurous spirits. Yet behind the statistics lies a technological reality that would soon shift the war's balance. British engineers work frantically on radar development, while American shipyards begin expanding production capacity. The weapons that terrorize Atlantic shipping in 1940 face countermeasures already taking shape in laboratories and factories. Across the Allied world, the submarine commanders do not yet realize that their greatest victories are also their last easy ones. North Atlantic, March 1941. The alarm bell splits the morning air aboard U-552 as lookouts spot an approaching Sunderland flying boat. "Alarm token," shouts the watch officer. Emergency dive procedures, drilled countless times in the Baltic, now mean survival. The sequence unfolds with mechanical precision. Lookouts tumble through the conning tower hatch as the diving klaxon sounds throughout the boat. The chief engineer opens main ballast tank vents, while the helmsman pushes his controls to full dive. Compressed air hisses from ballast tanks as seawater floods in. The submarine's bow tilts downward at a steep angle, and within 38 seconds, The conning tower disappears beneath the waves. Above, the Sunderland circles the dive point, dropping depth charges in a standard pattern. The explosions shake U-552's hull but cause no serious damage. The aircraft, lacking radar, has lost contact with its target. After an hour of fruitless searching, the flying boat departs for base. Its crew reporting submarine sighted, probably destroyed, a claim that proves wishful thinking. This scenario repeats across the Atlantic throughout. 1941, Kriegsmarine training manuals emphasize the alarm talk maneuver as the submarine crew's primary survival tool. Type 7 boats achieve consistent diving times between 30 and 45 seconds under ideal conditions. Type 9 submarines, longer and heavier, require 50 to 60 seconds, but compensate with greater range and firepower. The diving procedure demands split-second coordination. The watch officer's alarm triggers a choreographed response involving every crew member. Men sleeping in bunks roll out instantly, racing to assigned stations. The engine room crew shuts down diesels and switches to electric motors. Gun crews abandon their weapons and seal deck hatches. In the control room, the diving officer monitors depth gauges while calling out readings. 10 meters, 15 meters, 20 meters. Diving trim achieved. Heinrich Lehmann-Willenbrock, commander of U-96, records in his patrol report, "Aircraft sighting does not yet pose decisive danger. The boat submerges faster than enemy aircraft can attack." This assessment reflects the tactical reality of 1941, when most Allied patrol aircraft carried no radar and relied on visual contact alone. British Air Ministry records confirm German confidence. Of U-boats sighted by aircraft in 1941, 85% escaped destruction. The crash dive remains an effective defense against aerial attack, buying precious seconds for submarines to reach safety beneath the waves. But technology evolves faster than tactics, and 1942 would bring innovations that transformed hunting into being hunted. RAF Coastal Command Headquarters, Northwood. November 1941, Squadron Leader John Greswell demonstrates the latest ASV, air-to-surface vessel, Mk2 radar, to gathered intelligence officers. The device, weighing 140 pounds and powered by a 1.5-meter wavelength transmitter, can detect surface vessels at ranges up to 8 miles. For the first time in history, aircraft can hunt submarines in complete darkness. The radar display shows contacts as bright blips on a circular screen. Operators learn to distinguish submarines from fishing boats, debris, and atmospheric interference. The Type 7 submarine presents a distinctive signature, small but clear, moving at speeds impossible for surface vessels. Training manuals emphasize rapid identification. Submarine contacts appear as steady echoes moving at 15 to 20 knots. Fishing vessels rarely exceed 8 knots. Initial deployment proves the technology's revolutionary potential. In December 1941, RAF Squadron 172 achieves the first radar-assisted U-boat kill when Flight Lieutenant J.H. Greswell attacks U-451 in the Bay of Biscay. The submarine, caught on the surface during night transit, has no warning of the approaching aircraft until bombs explode around its hull. The lee light follows in early 1942, a 24-inch searchlight synchronized with radar to illuminate targets during the final attack phase. The combination proves devastating. Radar provides long-range detection, while the searchlight enables accurate bombing. U-boat commanders, accustomed to surface immunity after dark, suddenly face exposure at their most vulnerable moments. Donitz recognizes the threat immediately. His February 1942 assessment warns enemy aircraft equipped with location devices pose increasing danger to boats in transit areas. The Kriegsmarine rushes development of the METOX receiver, designed to detect incoming radar transmissions and provide early warning. The device, nicknamed Biscay Cross for its distinctive antenna, enters service in August 1942, yet Allied radar technology evolves faster than German countermeasures. ASV Mk3, operating on a revolutionary 10-centimeter wavelength, renders METOX useless. The new radar, powered by cavity magnetron technology, provides clearer contacts at greater ranges while remaining undetectable to German receivers. Coastal Command receives its first EMK Thur sets in March 1943. An Air Ministry memorandum from December 1942 captures the transformation. Radar and light have ended the U-boat surface immunity by night. The submarine must now choose between slow underwater transit and dangerous surface exposure. This choice would soon become no choice at all, as Allied patrol coverage expanded to blanket the Atlantic's most critical shipping lanes. The invisible had become visible, and darkness no longer provided sanctuary. Off Cape Hatteras, January 12, 1942, Captain Lieutenant Reinhard Hardigan peers through U-123's periscope at a sight that confirms his wildest expectations. Unescorted tankers and freighters steam along the American coast with navigation lights blazing, silhouetted against the glow of shoreside cities. Operation Drumbeat has begun, and the United States appears utterly unprepared for submarine warfare. The target-rich environment exceeds German planning estimates. Admiral Dönitz had allocated 5 boats for the initial assault, expecting modest results against defended shipping. Instead, his submarines find what he later describes as a shooting gallery. Ships travel independently without convoy protection. The U.S. Navy operates fewer than 100 anti-submarine vessels along 3,500 miles of coastline. Coastal cities refuse to implement blackout measures, arguing that tourism and commerce take precedence over military considerations. U-boat kills mount with shocking rapidity. U-123 alone sinks 11 ships in its first patrol, including the passenger liner City of Atlanta. U-130 destroys 8 vessels off New York Harbor. U-103 and U-106 add their own totals along the southern coast. The submarines operate with virtual impunity, surfacing in broad daylight to finish damaged vessels with deck guns. American responses prove inadequate and often counterproductive. The Navy deploys converted pleasure craft and fishing boats as patrol vessels, their crews lacking training and equipment for anti-submarine warfare. Air patrols fly random patterns without coordinated intelligence. Emergency blackout drills create more confusion than protection. As civilian authorities resist military direction, the statistical results speak for themselves. Between January and August 1942, U-boats sink 609 ships totaling 3.1 million tons in American waters. Daily losses average 13 vessels. German submarines achieve kill ratios that exceed even their most optimistic projections from 1939. Dönitz commits additional boats to the campaign, eventually deploying 20 submarines simultaneously along the U.S. coast. Yet, beneath the surface victories, fundamental changes reshape the war's balance. American shipyards, initially producing 300,000 tons monthly, expand capacity through emergency programs. The Maritime Commission standardizes Liberty ship construction, reducing build times from 8 months to an average of 42 days. By December 1942, U.S. yards deliver over 1 million tons of new shipping monthly, triple the rate of U-boat destruction. Henry J. Kaiser's Richmond shipyard achieves the impossible, completing the Liberty ship. Robert E. Peary in 4 days, 15 hours, and 29 minutes from keel laying to launch. This single vessel replaces tonnage that would require a U-boat 6 months to destroy. Industrial democracy demonstrates its power through production lines rather than propaganda. The shooting gallery had become a factory floor, and factories would decide the war. Bay of Biscay, March 15, 1943. The METOX receiver aboard U-333 crackles with static as Oberleutnant Werner Schwaff monitors for radar transmissions. The device, mounted prominently in the conning tower, had promised salvation from Allied air attacks. Instead, it broadcasts the submarine's position to every aircraft within 50 miles. British intelligence discovers the METOX vulnerability through captured equipment and prisoner interrogation. The German receiver, designed to detect 1.5-meter radar waves, actually radiates its own signals while scanning. RAF Coastal Command develops high-frequency direction finding, HFDF equipment, specifically to track these emissions. Aircraft now home in on U-boats, attempting to avoid detection. The technological mismatch reaches critical proportions with ASV Mk3 radar deployment. Operating on a 10-centimeter wavelength generated by cavity magnetron technology, the new radar remains invisible to MTOC's receivers while providing superior detection ranges. RAF Liberator aircraft equipped with Mk3 sets track submarines from 20 miles away during daylight and 15 miles at night. Flight Lieutenant Kenneth Owen's patrol report from March 1943 illustrates the transformation. Contact established at 18 miles, submarine running surfaced, course 290 degrees, speed 15 knots, target begins diving at 2-mile range. Depth charges released over dive point. Large oil slick observed. U-boat commanders, believing their MTOC's detectors provide adequate warning, instead find themselves trapped in an electronic net. Coastal command flying hours double between 1942 and 1943, reaching 50,000 monthly sorties by summer. Long-range aircraft close the Atlantic Gap, the mid-ocean zone previously beyond air cover. B-24 Liberators, modified with additional fuel tanks, provide 18-hour patrol endurance. VLR, very long-range aircraft, operate from bases in Iceland, Northern Ireland, Canada, and Gibraltar, creating overlapping coverage across primary shipping lanes. The Kriegsmarine attempts technological countermeasures. Naxos radar detectors, introduced in September 1943, can identify 10-centimeter transmissions, but arrive too late to affect campaign outcomes. New submarines receive Schnorkel breathing apparatus, allowing submerged diesel operation, but construction delays prevent widespread deployment. Type Dixixon Electroboot. Submarines promise revolutionary underwater performance, 17 knots submerged versus 7 knots for existing boats, but only 118 enter service before war's end. Meanwhile, Allied production overwhelms German innovation. The United States builds 18,000 B-24 Liberator aircraft, with thousands allocated to maritime patrol duties. British factories produce 30,000 radar sets annually. Canadian shipyards launch 348 frigates and corvettes, specifically designed for anti-submarine warfare. The Hunter had become the Hunted, and electronics would seal its fate. Washington, D.C. May 20, 1943. Admiral Ernest King establishes the U.S. Navy's 10th Fleet with a stroke of his pen, creating a command structure that operates no ships but coordinates anti-submarine warfare across 2 oceans. The Paper Fleet headquarters occupies offices in the Navy Department building, its staff armed with radio equipment, plotting boards, and decoded German radio intercepts rather than guns and torpedoes. The 10th Fleet's weapon is information. Ultra-intercepts, derived from breaking German Enigma codes, provide real-time intelligence on U-boat movements, fuel status, and patrol assignments. British cryptographers at Bletchley Park share decrypts with their American counterparts, creating an intelligence network that spans the Atlantic. German submarine commanders, believing their communications secure, unknowingly broadcast their positions and intentions to Allied forces. Rear Admiral Francis Lowe, the 10th Fleet's Chief of Staff, coordinates responses from a situation room resembling a corporate boardroom more than a military command center. Wall-mounted charts track every known U-boat, updated hourly as radio intercepts reveal new positions. Duty officers route aircraft and escort vessels to intercept submarines before attacks occur. The system transforms reactive convoy defense into proactive submarine hunting. Statistical analysis reveals the transformation's scope. Allied merchant ship losses peak at 818,000 tons in November 1942, then decline steadily as coordination improves. By July 1943, monthly losses drop below 250,000 tons despite increased U-boat numbers at sea. The ratio reverses. Rather than hunters destroying prey, organized defenses systematically eliminate attackers. Production statistics demonstrate industrial democracy's overwhelming advantage. American shipyards deliver 19 million tons of new merchant vessels in 1943, a 15-to-1 replacement ratio against U-boat destruction. Liberty ships enter service faster than submarines can destroy them. The Maritime Commission standardizes construction techniques, reducing costs and build times while improving quality and durability. Individual yard achievements defy belief. Kaiser's Richmond facility completes one Liberty ship every 4 days. Bethlehem Steel's Sparrows Point Yard builds 37 vessels simultaneously on parallel slipways. The Joseph N. Teal launches 93 days after its keel laying, setting a production record that German observers describe as impossible by traditional shipbuilding methods. Meanwhile, U-boat construction peaks at 240 hulls annually, a number surpassed by Allied merchant completions every 2 weeks. German yards struggle with material shortages, labor conscription, and Allied bombing. Submarine complexity requires skilled craftsmen increasingly deployed to other fronts. Quality control deteriorates as production pressure mounts. The paper fleet had proven more powerful than steel ships, and information would triumph over armor. North Atlantic, May 4, 1943, convoy ONS-5 encounters the largest wolf pack assembled since 1941, 30 U-boats coordinated by Admiral Dönitz's headquarters in Berlin. The submarine commanders expect another massacre like those of 1942. Instead, they sail into a killing field prepared by Allied intelligence, radar, and overwhelming numbers. The convoy's escort includes 2 destroyers, 4 corvettes, a frigate, and HMS Biter, a small aircraft carrier. VLR Liberators provide continuous air cover from Iceland and Newfoundland. HFDF equipment tracks German radio transmissions, revealing submarine positions before attacks begin. Ultra intercepts decode Dönitz's tactical instructions, giving escorts advance warning of planned assault patterns. U-boat losses mount with shocking rapidity. U-125 falls to HMS Oribe's depth charges after radar detection reveals its approach. U-630 succumbs to aircraft attack while attempting a crash dive that takes 53 seconds, 20 seconds too long for survival. U-531 suffers the same fate when RAF Sunderland flying boat catches it surfaced in daylight. The technological balance has shifted irreversibly. ASV-MK 3rd radar detects submarines at ranges exceeding visual contact. Lee lights illuminate targets during final attack phases. Forward-firing rockets supplement depth charges, creating lethal patterns that few submarines survive. Escort carriers provide constant air cover, eliminating the surface immunity that once protected U-boat movements. Individual submarine commanders recognize the transformation. Captain Lieutenant Herbert Werner, surviving the loss of U-230, later writes, "We had become clay pigeons in a shooting gallery. The crash dive that once saved us now marked our graves." The emergency submergence procedure, drilled to perfection in Baltic training grounds, proves inadequate against weapons delivered at aircraft speeds. May 1943. Statistics tell the story of systematic destruction. 41 U-boats sink during the month, 25% of the operational fleet. German submarine losses exceed construction for the first time since 1939. Crew casualties reach catastrophic levels as experienced commanders and trained crews perish faster than replacements can be trained. Dönitz's response acknowledges reality. His signal to all boats on May 24, 1943, orders temporary withdrawal from North Atlantic convoy routes. The enemy has temporarily gained the upper hand through new location, methods, and weapons. Boats will avoid areas of heavy air patrol until countermeasures become available. The message marks the end of Germany's submarine offensive against Allied shipping. From Berlin, the Admiral's War Diary records the campaign's failure. The enemy had won the Battle of the Atlantic through superior technology and industrial capacity. Our losses exceed our ability to replace them. Black May had become Germany's underwater Stalingrad. Kiel shipyard. September 1943. Workers install the latest German innovation on U-264, a snorkel breathing mast that extends above water while the submarine travels submerged. The device, adapted from Dutch designs captured in 1940, promises to restore tactical mobility by eliminating surface exposure during battery charging and transit. The schnorchel represents desperate improvisation rather than technological breakthrough. The retractable mast allows diesel engines to operate while submerged at periscope depth, drawing air through a float valve that closes automatically when waves break over the intake. Submarines can now travel underwater indefinitely, theoretically avoiding radar detection while maintaining reasonable speeds. Operational reality proves less promising. Snorkel-equipped boats must maintain precise depth control to prevent valve closure, requiring constant attention from experienced helmsmen. Engine exhaust bubbles create distinctive surface disturbances visible to aircraft observers. The breathing mast itself presents a radar target, though smaller than a surfaced submarine. Most critically, submerged speeds remain limited to 8 knots maximum, half the surface capability that made Wolfpack tactics possible. BDU War Diary entries document the submarine service's declining morale. A January 1944 assessment reads, "The boat is no longer a weapon, but a coffin." Crew survival rates plummet to 33%. 1 in 3 submariners can expect to return from patrol. The Kriegsmarine's most elite service has become its most dangerous assignment. Training standards deteriorate as experienced personnel casualties mount. New submarine commanders receive abbreviated instruction before departing on first patrols. Veterans like Heinrich Schrötler observe, "Boys of 19 commanded boats that required years of experience to operate effectively. We sent children to fight a technological war with courage alone," typed Thungud. Electro-boot development promises revolutionary underwater performance, 17 knots submerged using advanced battery technology and streamlined hull design. The submarines carry 23 torpedoes and sophisticated sonar equipment, representing quantum advances over existing boats. Prefabrication techniques reduce construction time from 12 months to 6 months. Production delays prevent meaningful deployment. Only 118 Type Phaidopes boats reach completion before Germany's surrender, with fewer than 5 achieving operational status. Material shortages, Allied bombing, and labor conscription cripple submarine construction programs. German yards that produced 240 boats in 1942 manage only 189 in 1944, despite increased facility capacity. Meanwhile, Allied anti-submarine warfare reaches unprecedented effectiveness. Combined air and surface patrols sink submarines faster than Germany can build them. The average U-boat patrol lasts 38 days, with most boats destroyed before completing their missions. Innovation had arrived too late to matter, and courage could not overcome industrial mathematics. Bay of Biscay. July 18, 1943. Flight Lieutenant David Hornell spots U-706 through the morning haze, the submarine caught on the surface during its transit to patrol areas. The Liberator's ASV radar has tracked the target for 8 minutes, but visual contact confirms what electronic sensors suggested. A Type CVC submarine traveling at full surface speed toward the Atlantic hunting grounds. The physics of the encounter prove inexorable. U-706's diving alarm sounds as lookouts spot the approaching aircraft at 2 miles distance. 47 crewmen execute emergency procedures drilled hundreds of times in training. Ballast tank vents open as compressed air escapes and seawater floods in. The submarine's bow angles downward at maximum inclination, while diesel engines shut down and electric motors engage. Hornell's bombardier calculates release point using the MK Prothave bomb sight, a mechanical computer that factors aircraft speed, altitude, target motion, and wind drift. The Liberator carries 8 depth charges set for 25-foot detonation. At 40 seconds into U-706's dive sequence, the submarine's conning tower still protrudes above surface when ordnance explodes around its hull. The margin of survival has become impossibly narrow. Type 7 submarines require 40 to 50 seconds for complete submergence under ideal conditions. Rough seas, mechanical problems, or crew inexperience extend diving time beyond the safety threshold. Allied aircraft deliver weapons with split-second precision, guided by radar tracking and mechanical computation that eliminates human error. RAF 224. Squadron's after-action report captures the tactical reality. Submarine sighted at 2 miles. Diving commenced immediately. Bombs released at 40 seconds into dive sequence. Direct hit achieved on conning tower section. U-706 sinks with all hands. joining 40 other submarines destroyed during July 1943. German submarine commanders recognized their impossible situation. Korvettenkapitän Werner Henke, one of the few surviving aces, reports to BDU, "Surface transit equals certain death. Submerged transit reduces speed to tactical insignificance. The boat can neither hunt nor escape." His assessment reflects mathematical reality. Submarines designed for surface operations face weapons optimized for surface targets. Training films from this period show the desperation of German countermeasures. Crews practice snap diving techniques that promise submergence in 30 seconds, but real-world conditions rarely permit textbook performance. Ice formation, equipment failures, and crew fatigue extend diving times when survival margins disappear. The crash dive that once guaranteed escape had become a race against ballistics, and ballistics traveled faster than compressed air could flood ballast tanks. London, Admiralty Building. September 1943, statistical analysts present charts that reduce submarine warfare to mathematical certainty. The graphs show two lines diverging with increasing separation. Allied shipbuilding rises exponentially while U-boat sinkings decline toward statistical insignificance. Victory had become a matter of arithmetic. The numbers tell an unambiguous story. German submarines sank 2.2 million tons of Allied shipping in 1940 when the U-boat fleet numbered fewer than 30 operational boats. In 1943, despite deploying over 400 submarines, the Kriegsmarine destroys 3.2 million tons while losing 237 boats, a kill ratio that guarantees strategic defeat. Allied production statistics defy pre-war projections. American yards alone deliver 19 million tons of new shipping in 1943, representing a 15-to-1 replacement ratio against submarine destruction. Liberty ships enter service every 4 days from Henry Kaiser's Richmond facility. British yards contribute an additional 3 million tons annually. Canadian production adds 1.2 million tons. The combined output exceeds German submarine capacity by factors that render the tonnage war unwinnable. Individual achievements demonstrate industrial democracy's overwhelming advantage. The Liberty ship Robert E. Peary completes construction in 4 days, 15 hours, and 29 minutes, faster than any U-boat could travel from Germany to American waters. Kaiser Industries employs 196,000 workers across 7 shipyards, building vessels faster than German crews can sink them. U-boat construction reaches maximum capacity of 240 hulls annually, but losses exceed replacements by 3-to-1 margins. German yards struggle with material shortages as steel allocation prioritizes tank and aircraft production. Skilled craftsmen transfer to other fronts, leaving submarine construction to apprentices and foreign workers. Quality control deteriorates under production pressure, resulting in boats that survive shorter patrols before mechanical failures force dangerous surface repairs. Crew training presents even greater challenges. The Kriegsmarine loses experienced submarine commanders faster than naval academies can train replacements. New captains receive abbreviated instruction before commanding complex vessels in hostile waters. Survival rates plummet as inexperienced crews face veteran Allied forces equipped with superior technology. A U.S. Navy assessment from September 1943 captures the strategic reality. The tonnage war has been irretrievably lost by Germany. Enemy construction capacity cannot replace current losses, much less expand operations. Submarine warfare has become a diminishing threat to Allied shipping. The mathematical certainty extends beyond production to personnel. Germany's submarine service suffers 75% casualties, the highest loss rate of any military branch in any nation during the war. Training facilities cannot replace dead crewmen fast enough to maintain operational strength. Industry had defeated ideology, and mathematics had rendered courage irrelevant. Atlantic Ocean. December 1943. U-515 attempts to intercept convoy HX-271 using tactics that once guaranteed success. The submarine approaches submerged at 7 knots, requiring 6 hours to reach attack position. By the time U-515 achieves firing range, the convoy has passed beyond torpedo reach, Protected by continuous air cover and radar-equipped escorts, the transformation represents a fundamental shift in naval warfare. U-boats can no longer operate on the surface without immediate detection and destruction. Forced to remain submerged, submarines lose the speed and maneuverability that made wolfpack tactics possible. Underwater speeds of 7 knots prove inadequate for intercepting convoys traveling at 9 knots with destroyer escorts capable of 30 knots. Convoy protection reaches unprecedented effectiveness through technological integration. HFDF equipment tracks German radio transmissions, revealing submarine positions before attacks begin. Escort carriers provide continuous fighter and bomber coverage. Radar-equipped destroyers detect periscopes at ranges exceeding torpedo launch distances. The defensive net has become impenetrable to conventional submarine tactics. German countermeasures arrive too late to influence outcomes. Type X-Leopard electro-boot submarines promise revolutionary underwater performance, 17 knots submerged using advanced battery technology and streamlined hull design. The boats carry sophisticated sonar equipment and 23 torpedoes in automated loading systems. Prefabrication techniques reduce construction time from 12 to 6 months. Only 118 Type Faro-Went submarines reach completion before Germany's surrender. Material shortages, Allied bombing, and labor conscription prevent meaningful production numbers. Those boats that achieve commissioning lack trained crews and operational support facilities. The submarine service's institutional knowledge has been destroyed along with its veteran personnel. Kriegsmarine assessments acknowledge defeat. A BDU report from January 1944 states, "The submarine no longer decides the battle." Enemy air and surface superiority has rendered conventional tactics obsolete. New technologies arrive too. Late to restore offensive capability. Admiral Donitz privately admits that Germany lost the Atlantic campaign in May. 1943, individual submarine patrols become suicide missions, disguised as military operations. U-boats venture forth knowing that surface detection equals destruction within minutes. Snorkel-breathing masts provide minimal protection while reducing speed and maneuverability. Commanders write final letters before departing on patrols they do not expect to survive. The statistical reality confirms tactical assessment. German submarine sinkings of Allied vessels dropped from 627 to 377 tons in January 1943 to 62,000 tons in January 1944. Meanwhile, U-boat losses increase from 18 to 36 boats monthly. The hunters have become an endangered species facing systematic extinction. Surface warfare had ended, and submarines had become underwater targets waiting for discovery. Berlin, Kriegsmarine Archives, May 8, 1945. Clerks compile final statistics for the U-boat campaign as Germany surrenders unconditionally. The numbers tell a story of unprecedented destruction. 962 submarines built, 784 lost in combat, a 67% destruction rate that exceeds losses in any military campaign in recorded history. The human cost proves even more devastating. Of 40,900 men who served in U-boats during the war, 30,000 died, a casualty rate of 75%. No other military branch in any nation suffered comparable losses. The Kriegsmarine's elite submarine service, once attracting Germany's brightest technical minds, had become a death sentence for an entire generation. Individual stories illustrate the statistical catastrophe. Heinrich Schrödler, one of fewer than 11,000 survivors, later testified, "We knew the sea would take us. The only question was when. By 1943, we said goodbye to families knowing we would never return." The boat had become our coffin, and patrol orders were death sentences. Training facilities recorded the transformation from elite service to desperate conscription. The submarine school at Neustadt processed candidates in abbreviated courses lasting weeks rather than months. Boys of 18 commanded Type 7 boats, requiring years of experience to operate effectively. Veterans observed teenage captains attempting complex operations with courage substituting for competence. The Kriegsmarine consumed its most valuable human resources for diminishing returns. Experienced commanders like Otto Kretschmer, Joachim Schepke, and Günther Prien, the aces, celebrated in 1940, propaganda perished by 1941. Their replacements lacked institutional knowledge, accumulated through pre-war training and early campaign experience. Tactical sophistication declined as veteran crews died faster than naval academies could train successors. Medical records document the psychological impact of submarine service. Crew members developed what doctors termed U-boat neurosis, a combination of claustrophobia, anxiety, and fatalistic depression. Men volunteered for surface assignments despite reduced prestige. Some officers requested court-martial rather than command boats they knew were death traps. Family correspondence reveals the submarine service's social impact. Letters from 1943-1944 show wives and mothers accepting notification of missing in action as confirmation of death. Entire families lost sons, fathers, and brothers to the Atlantic depths. Small German coastal towns that provided submarine crews found their young male populations decimated. Post-war interviews with survivors emphasized the futility of individual sacrifice against industrial superiority. Fritz Steen, radio operator on 3 patrols, reflected, "We fought machines with courage and lost to mathematics. American factories built ships faster than we could sink them. Their workers defeated our warriors through production lines rather than battles. A generation had perished to learn that modern war is won in shipyards, not command towers." Nuremberg International Military Tribunal, 1946. Admiral Karl Dönitz, architect of Germany's submarine campaign, faces questioning about his strategy's failure. His admission proves more devastating than any prosecution argument. The enemy had won the Battle of the Atlantic with their eyes closed. Superior technology and industrial capacity rendered individual courage irrelevant. The final accounting reveals numbers that border on the impossible. Allied shipyards produced 5,500 merchant vessels, totaling 56 million tons, nearly 10 times the tonnage Germany destroyed during 6 years of submarine warfare. American yards alone built 18,000 aircraft for maritime patrol duties. British factories manufactured 30,000 radar sets annually. The technological gap had become unbridgeable through conventional military means. Time measurements tell the most dramatic story. In 1940, surfaced U-boats enjoyed virtual immunity from air attack, with most aircraft lacking radar or sufficient range for effective patrol. By 1944, submarine survival time on the surface averaged less than 1 minute before detection and attack. The 45 seconds required for emergency diving had become 45 seconds of vulnerability, rather than 45 seconds to safety. Individual technological achievements demonstrate the war's true character. ASV Mk3 radar detected submarines at 20 miles while remaining invisible to German countermeasures. Lee lights illuminated targets during final attack phases. Forward-firing rockets delivered ordnance with mechanical precision that eliminated human error. The submarine's greatest defense, invisibility, had been stripped away by electronic eyes that never slept. Production statistics reveal democracy's overwhelming advantage. Henry Kaiser's Richmond shipyard completed Liberty ships faster than U-boats could travel from Germany to patrol areas. A single American facility outproduced Germany's entire submarine construction program. Industrial capacity determined strategic outcomes more decisively than tactical brilliance or individual heroism. The human cost emphasizes modern warfare's mathematical nature. Germany sacrificed 30,000 submarine crewmen, its most technically trained personnel, while achieving negligible strategic impact. Allied merchant losses, though significant in human terms, represented statistical insignificance compared to replacement capacity. The war had become an equation where courage multiplied by zeros equaled 0. Post-war analysis confirms that technology and industry decided the Atlantic campaign's outcome. German submarines designed for surface operations could not adapt to electronic warfare that rendered surface exposure suicidal. Allied responses combined radar detection, air power, and overwhelming production in systems that German countermeasures could not overcome. The final lesson resonates beyond military history. In technological warfare, 45 seconds determined the difference between life and death. When survival margins contracted to split-second timing, industrial democracy's advantages became insurmountable. The future belonged not to individual warriors, but to nations that could produce weapons faster than enemies could deploy them. When 45 seconds decides life or death, technology and industry have already decided the war. What is your perspective on this part of history? Share your thoughts in the comments, because every memory and reflection helps keep the past alive.